This is a guy. His name is Steven and he's a 209 marathoner. This is his channel. Subscribe and he will tell you how to get faster and what to do in a marathon. And here's another guy. His name is Andrew and he's a 409 marathoner. He is me. And you can totally also subscribe to his channel because he's about to tell you what not to do in a marathon. Here are 7 mistakes I made in my first marathon so you don't have to. Oh, disclaimer, and for levity, running 26.2 miles is a huge accomplishment no matter what your finishing time is. So time goals, they can be great, but they're not everything. And 4:09:08 is technically a PB for me as it was my first marathon and I never rang the bell. So now, the reason I'm making this video is for anybody who is about to embark on their very first marathon. If you're intimidated, if you're scared, if you're worried, same bro. Grab a pen, maybe on your phone, jot down some notes, download it into your cerebral cortex. Mistake number 1, no structure. I didn't have a training plan. Well, I did technically have a training plan. It was run 6 days a week, all easy efforts, no speed work whatsoever. You see, prior to this, I had found myself getting a lot faster by doing something called the Maffetone Method, which is essentially only easy aerobic running. And it worked for me. I'd tell you more about it, but it does sound like a pyramid scheme and we are short on time. So, all easy runs, which, and to clarify, actually isn't a bad idea and probably the thing to do if you're looking to just complete your first marathon. If you're looking to just finish it, this aerobic easy running is probably how you're going to be running the marathon anyway and is the best training. But I was trying to race the marathon. Yeah, your boy over here, marathon number 1, I was trying to race it like Dumbledore. And yes, I am aware that nobody says your boy anymore and that Dumbledore is a fictional wizard with no known running abilities. But you get my point. I was being dumb and I was trying to race this race even though I hadn't practiced any racing or running fast in my training. The solution to this mistake, what I would have done differently, what I have done differently since that marathon for future marathons, is that I purchased a marathon training plan. A training plan provides a variety of different run types: fast, moderate, slow, short runs, long runs, and with adequate rest between harder efforts built in according to your current level of fitness so that you don't get injured along the way. They're very well designed. For marathon number 2, I purchased a marathon training plan from the fine folks of Higher Running, Sage and Sandy Nypaver, Canada. Can they just get married? Anyway, they're coaches, they do training plans. I'll leave a link in the description below. There are many other training plans that you may be able to purchase all across the internets. For marathon mistake number 2, it's gonna how did you get here? Actual mistake number 2, if I had to create a YouTube title for this mistake, it would be called I Went Out Too Fast. Not what you think. Going out too fast is like the universally accepted number 1 mistake that most runners make. You've probably already heard it like 357,000 times and probably why you've already skipped ahead to the next mistake. But wait, there's more. Why is it not what you think? Well, because when, at least for me, when I hear someone went out too fast, I think that they just took off the start line like it was a 5K when it's really a marathon. But I didn't do that. I didn't sprint off the start line. I started at goal pace. Now, there are 3 problems with this. Number 1, I set off at a sub 3-hour marathon pace of 6:52 a mile, and I wasn't in sub 3-hour marathon shape, only I didn't know that. That was the first one. The second problem is that the body needs a little time to warm up, and I didn't really allow it by just shooting off at goal pace. And what I did differently, and what I have done differently in future races, is that if I have a goal pace and I am even in that shape, I start out my race a little bit slower, say 5 or 10 seconds a mile slower, then goal pace for many miles, like say 3 or 4, before I settle into what my goal pace is, and then I try to hold it for the rest and pick up the pace if I have anything left. Okay, for the 3rd mistake that I made that led to my severe bonky tonk at the San Antonio Rock and Roll Marathon in 2021 was I did not adjust for the weather. I'll put up what the weather was on the day right here. When the weather is this disgusting, it really just turns into an episode of Survivor. I've never watched the show, but I imagine it's about survival, and that's what the marathon turns into when the weather is The solution to running in bad weather is to slow your pace down by maybe 10 or 15 seconds a mile, ease your way into the race, and see how you feel. Okay, for mistake number 4, it is gonna be not a proper warm up. So I drank a bunch of coffee and went outside my house and started jogging, and I got about 800 meters in before the Uber came to pick me up. And then once I got down there, went to the bathroom a few times, and my warm up consisted of doing active like soldier kicks and side lunges, and I was warming up my muscles, but I really never warmed up my heart. I didn't, run or jog a mile, which I like to do. So it was a little bit of a shock to the system when I started out at goal pace a little too fast, and my body didn't know what was going on, and the weather being as humid as it was did not help, especially with mistake number 5. Mistake number 5, too much caffeine. Guys, I work in coffee, okay? I can hold my caffeine, I can. But I woke up and I just saw this cold brew and I was just nervous and I just slammed it. And I was like, let's go, I'm excited. And I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of energy. This was my first ever race. I was gonna try to do a sub 3 at it. I've never even run a marathon. I didn't know what to expect. There was a lot of the unknown. I probably, in retrospect, solution would not have drinking any coffee, and I think I would have been just fine. In fact, I would say the solution to all of these mistakes is that I would have approached the marathon not to race it, but to run it. I would respect the distance a little more and just to feel it out to see what it's like. Mistake number 6, nothing new on race day. If you're wondering, I haven't even talked about what happened during this marathon. So when you put all of those elements together, me waking up, slamming some coffee, not getting in a jog or warming up properly, the weather wasn't great, setting off at a pace that was a little too fast for me. My heart rate was up into the 180s by mile 2, which is like my 5K pace. And I slowed my pace down by 45 seconds and I still couldn't get my heart rate down. So I said, okay, let me just chill out, let me drink my water and take this gel that I got at the expo, which had caffeine in it, and I did not know that. These were just gels that I bought. So I tried something new on race day, which is another, these are all cliche. You click on every YouTube video, they're gonna all say these same things, but here's what it looks like when you do it. By mile 11, my central governor said, we're not doing this anymore. You cannot die on us today. You have children and we want you to be their father. So let's go ahead and slow you down to a walk. And at best, you'll be able to jog. And so just a little bit, maybe 200 meters at a time max, and then we'll walk again. And for the last 15 miles of the race, that's exactly what I did. I walked, jogged, and it was painful 15 miles to the end. That's what happens when you make all of these 6 mistakes. The solution for this one is very easy. There's usually a long run in the training plans a few weeks before your big race. If you get dressed up in the same racing kit that you're going to be going in and you take all the nutrition that you're going to take on race day, it's a good dress rehearsal for race day, and then you won't get any surprises. And then when you go to the expo and there's all the flashy new things, just don't buy them. Guys, I cannot tell you the amount of physical suffering that was happening in those last 15 miles. My average pace for the entire marathon was about 9 minutes and 15 seconds. And this was a blow to the ego, and there was a lot of mental, emotional, and spiritual pain happening there because this was the easy pace that I was running most every day in training, which means I could have set out on the day at my easy pace, run the same time, but actually enjoyed myself. If it weren't for the fact that I had already been accepted into the Chicago Marathon lottery, I may not have ever run another marathon. But luckily, I did, and I had a great time doing it, and I learned a lot from the Chicago Marathon, and I made another video with 10 tips, which you can watch right here.
Keep the same energy. Work on being better when I'm 70. Your drip is just a water spring. You know I drip different, just a 7C.